So this session's about breath work for pain, anxiety, and nervous system regulation. So breath is actually one of our superpowers. It's something we have available all of the time, but we've just forgotten how to use it. So first of all, a little bit about me. My name is Charlotte Saunders. I'm an advanced breathwork coach and a master breath healing release coach. I'm also a firewalk instructor and experiential empowerment coach. So I also do the slightly crazy stuff, but that all makes life a little bit more exciting. I myself have a genetic connective tissue disorder, which comes with a side order of chronic pain. So whilst I can't pretend to know what your experiences are like, because I think all of us have such unique experiences of pain, every single person's totally individual. I do understand what it's like to live with chronic pain. So I had a fairly normal-ish careers prior to doing breath work. I've worked as a forensic psychologist, I've worked as a virtual assistant, I've worked in schools, I've worked as a bookkeeper and accountant before I came to breath work. And breath work came to me at a time when we had a quite traumatic event in our family, and I needed to learn how to regulate myself in order to be able to look after the rest of my family. Once I'd started doing breath work for a while, I actually realised how much benefit I was getting in terms of my physical health and my pain levels. So much so that I managed to reduce my pain medication. Now, I'm not going to say, as always, I'm not going to say that's the case for everybody, but that worked for me. And we can use the breath to really help us reduce and cope with the anxiety that can often come with pain. So we're going to look at a few different bits this morning. So first of all, I'm going to give you a quick introduction to breathwork. If you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments in the chat, and I'll address them probably towards the end if that's okay. We're going to have a quick look at the nervous system, because that's really where the breathwork comes in. You may know all of this stuff, so feel free to dip in and out if any of this is not of interest or not relevant. Then we're going to look at how breathwork actually helps within the body. Then I'm going to give you a few breathing techniques that you can use every single day, whenever you want, whenever you need, that will help you. And then finally, we're going to do a 15 to 20 minute breath work. It's really gentle, it's really calming, and it's really good for you physically. Again, take part if you want to. If you don't want to, that's absolutely fine. It's all being recorded, so if today's not the right day to try it another day. If you do it today and you love it, you know it's recorded and you can go back to it as many times as you want. We will not be doing any breath holds today because they are not particularly good for a lot of people. Move however you want, move around, do whatever is right for you. This session is yours, so do whatever is right for you. And everything within this session is completely and utterly optional. As I say, your session, your choice. Take what you want and leave the rest. So, first of all, understanding breath work. So, what actually is breath work? So, breath work's the intentional act of controlling and changing your breathing pattern to influence mental, emotional, or physical states. We all know that when we get anxious and panicky, we can feel our breath speeding up. We might feel it in our chest. We also know when we're lying in front of the telly, watching something that we're really enjoying, our breath's a bit slower. Quite often it might be going into our belly, but we're chilled, we're relaxed, and our breath changes. Actually, a lot of the time we don't notice how much it's changing, but it really does. Breathwork has been used for millennia. All of our ancestors used breathwork for so many different things, but over time we forgot. We completely forgot. I think Big Pharma has a place in part of this. We forgot how to use our breath to make ourselves feel a bit better. And actually, 90% of us breathe in a way that is not optimal. If you look at your breathing throughout the day, very often you will find that you're mouth breathing. Actually, nose breathing is the best thing. If you can make one change, changing to nose breathing would be it. Some of the breath work we can do when used correctly can completely reset us. So it's like, you know, if you've ever had an IT issue and they say turn the computer off and on again to reset it, some of the breath work is a human version of that. We alter our breath and it is literally like turning it on and turning it off again. And the breath work we'll do towards the end of this session is very much one of those. And sort of as a side note, when trauma occurs in our lives, we hold it at a cellular level. So we might hold it at a mental cognitive level, but actually the body holds the score. We hold it at a more cellular level, and we can use the breath to move this. I work very closely with a psychotherapist, and she deals with the brain and the mental bit, and I deal with the actual cellular, shifting it out of our bodies to move into more ease. A note of caution, because this is really heartfelt for me, there are a lot of people who are breathwork coaches who are doing very short and quick courses. And particularly for all of you, if you decide you want to work with a breathwork coach at any point, please ensure that they know about the respiratory system and blood gas exchanges. A vast number of courses do not cover the medical side of this. And actually, in particular, because of the cardiac implications with AKU, breath holds can be really dangerous. So if you decide you want to do any breath work with a coach, please check that they're asking about medical issues. And should you happen to come across breath work on the internet and they suggest you do box breathing, because I know it's one that's talked about a lot, in particular with osteoarthritis, do not ever do a hold of more than 3 or 4, because it's really dangerous. It changes the blood gas, it changes the acid levels in your blood, which can affect your heart. So if you take one thing from today, that's a really good thing to take. So yeah, make sure, and you know, if you want to work with somebody, feel free to ask me if I know somebody in your area who is fully trained. I'd be more than happy to help with that. So how breath work affects the body. There are 2 major things that play a part in how we do breath work. The first one is nitric oxide. Now, this is a wonder molecule, and in fact I think it was the 2018 Wonder Molecule of the Year. So nice nerdy fact to go along with the animal facts from earlier. So nitric oxide is actually only produced in the nasal cavity. It's the only place in the body we produce it. And this is part of the reason why nose breathing is such an important thing for all of us. Nitric oxide improves every single system in our body. It improves the cardiac system, the respiratory system, it improves our rest and digest system, it improves literally everything. Immunity, absolutely every system is improved by nitric oxide, and we get that purely by breathing through our nose. So if you can breathe through your nose, fantastic. If you would like any help with that, drop me a note and I can send you a few easy exercises and things you can do to help with that. Nitric oxide is amazing, but it only stays in our system for a few seconds. So this is even more reason why the nose breathing is so important. If you think with nose breathing, you're breathing it in, it's doing its work for a few seconds, then it's going. So the more you can nose breathe, the better overall for your health. It's also naturally an anti-inflammatory. It also has antifungal and antiviral properties. So there's literally nothing it doesn't do. The other thing where we use breath work and how it really helps with the body is our CO2 tolerance, so our carbon dioxide tolerance. Carbon dioxide, when we take it in, basically dictates how our blood releases oxygen to our cells. the more tolerant we are to carbon dioxide, the more the body will use the oxygen efficiently. And obviously the oxygen then goes to power all of our cells, all of our major organs. There's not, again, like nitric oxide, every part of our system is improved by this, because actually oxygen is the fuel for our body. You know, so food is the fuel that keeps us going. Oxygen is the fuel that keeps all of our organs going. So by improving our tolerance to CO2, we're improving our oxygen delivery around the body. Also, when we get used to having a better, slightly higher CO2 tolerance, it lessens the likelihood of entering panic states. It helps to calm the nervous system, and the more we do it, the more we learn not to lean into anxiety and panic. And actually that's really relevant because, you know, often pain flare-ups can cause a level of anxiety and a level of feeling low. And so this will help with that. The breath work I use, we also use CO2, changes in CO2 levels to alter states of consciousness, which sounds really scary, but it's really not. It's going into a slightly meditative state where we can actually move some of that more traumatic stuff. So, I am not an expert in AKU by any stretch. You, the patients, are the experts in this. But obviously, pain is the most impactful symptom that you guys report. It's chronic, it's progressive, and it's often unpredictable. And I know myself, chronic pain is really, really tiring because it changes everything. It changes how you sleep, changes how you move, it changes how you feel, changes your anxiety levels, and pain itself is a stressor. So it's activating your nervous system to think that it's moving into fight or flight, which then, because of the way our bodies work, when we get that stressor and that fight or flight response, that makes the pain feel worse because our fight and flight response is telling us to get away from it. So, you know, we know that your pain is a serious issue for you guys. And obviously, oh, sorry, I just need to have a sip of water. Sorry, I'm used to, mostly my clients do the talking, so I'm not used to talking quite as much. So obviously the pain then has an effect on the mental health because it causes, sorry about this, because it causes anxiety, it causes depression. We don't know when we're going to have a flare up, and that can leave you feeling depressed because you don't know when it's going to happen. It makes you anxious, it makes you depressed. You can feel more insular. It can give you persistent low mood, you know. And again, it is a very rare condition, and not knowing people can make it feel even more difficult. I mean, luckily you've got the AKU Society, which is connecting you to other people so you can share your experience and hopefully remove that loneliness slightly. But then there's the pain anxiety cycle. Pain triggers anxiety. As I said, it's a nervous system thing. You're not asking to be anxious and tense and stressed. You're not. But pain causes that on a neurological level. We can't help it. It's just the way our biology is built. So if we look at that, pain is caused by, the pain goes to the nervous system. So we're going to look at the nervous system because the nervous system is the system that the breath works on most effectively. So you may well know all of this. The autonomic nervous system has two branches. This controls all your autonomic body functions. So that's basically your automatic body functions. And part of that obviously is your stress response. So there are two functions to the autonomic nervous system. There's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So your sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight nervous system. And when you're in this, so this is when the pain comes, you go into sympathetic, you go into fight or flight, your heart rate will increase. Your breathing will be faster. Quite often it'll be in the upper chest because it's shallow. These all cause your muscles to tense. It amplifies the pain signals you're getting, and you get stress hormones released within the body, which then we have a loop. Stress hormones are released, we're in fight or flight. Okay, heart rate will increase. The breath will continue to quicken and shallow, the muscles will tense, the pain's amplified, oh, the stress hormones are going again. So we're caught in this loop. The opposite side to the sympathetic is the parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest system. This is when the body goes, okay, I'm safe. We can slow everything down. Your heart rate slows. Your breath will start to deepen. Your muscles will soften and relax. Your pain perceptions are reduced. And that's when your body goes into healing. You will know these feelings. This is the sitting on the sofa after a nice meal, relaxing, watching whatever your favourite TV programme is, and just going, oh, that's when you're in parasympathetic rest or digest. Now, obviously, this is biology and chemistry, so it's never going to be as easy as just two branches. The nervous system, we have the two branches. Within these, we have the vagal nerve. So the vagal nerve is the biggest nerve in the body. It runs from the base of the skull all the way down to the base of the spine, and it leads into everything. Polyvagal theory is relatively recent, but has been proven by tons of scientific studies. And what they've found is we have this, it's called the vagal ladder. We have 3 states of being. Now, we've already touched on the sympathetic system, which is fight or flight. We have 2 others. I appreciate this is all a bit sciencey, so bear with me. We have the ventral vagal. This is quite like the parasympathetic. It's when we're safe and connected. This is when we're in our social engaged state. We can talk to people, chatting with friends. We're calm. Again, sitting on the sofa at the end of the day, going out with friends, you're relaxed, you're calm. If you have got pain, you're kind of thinking, okay, this is fine, I can deal with this. And this is when we're resting and healing. The sympathetic is our fight or flight, or you might have heard fight, flight and freeze. We're in that. It's our mobilization system. It's our body going, there's something to worry about. We'll be agitated, we'll be a bit anxious. When you're feeling like a cat on a hot tin roof, it's that kind of antsy feeling. And the pain's getting bigger. It's difficult to rest or think clearly. It's when you're going to bed and your brain's trying to do 28 different things at once because the body is mobilized for threat. And then we have dorsal vagal, which is the shutdown. It's the freeze. It's when we are so tired, in so much pain, that we feel completely exhausted and disconnected. It's really common in any chronic condition, particularly when you've got persistent pain. Those days where you're just like, I just don't want to get out of bed today. I just can't face anything. And actually, I would say on days like that, take the wins that you can get. If on a day like that, all you can do is get up and go to the loo, celebrate that fact, because anything you can do is better than nothing, And I think those days are our body saying to us, don't do it. Just rest and relax. Obviously, ventral is a beautiful state to be in because it's when we're most on, it's when we're happiest, it's where we're most able to deal with life generally. And actually, breathwork is one of the easiest ways to get into that state. The polyvagal theory tells us we are never supposed to be in one of these states all of the time. We're supposed to go up and down this ladder. Ventral vagal's at the top of the ladder, sympathetics in the middle, dorsal is at the bottom. Dorsal's when we're sleeping at night. We don't want to be in sympathetic when we're sleeping. We want to be dorsal. Now, there are loads and loads of statistics about how many times we go up and down the ventral ladder in a day, but the most consistent appears to be about 14 a day. Who knows? Obviously, be aware that at the moment, the world is throwing fear at us 24/7. The press are throwing fear at us. There's a lot going on. So, the breath work helps with that, but it makes it harder to stay feeling in that safe and connected space. So this is how chronic pain works with the nervous system that we were talking about. Pain, the body sends a signal to the brain to say something's hurting. We go straight into the sympathetic fight or flight. This leads to more tension. Our cortisol rises. Cortisol is the stress hormone that we have. Cortisol goes up, which means we become more sensitive to the pain. More pain goes to the brain. Threat response gets higher. So it's a cycle. Now, we can break this cycle. Nobody's going to be able to take it away, but breath is one thing that can help with it. Now, try the breath work. It may work for you, it may not. I'm very aware that not everything will work for everybody. Some things will feel good for some people, they might not for others. My mum loves acupuncture. It doesn't work for me. So, see what works for you, see what feels good. And if this can help you, that would be amazing. The breath-body connection. The breath is the only function controlled by both conscious and unconscious mind, meaning we're breathing all the time. We're not realising we're doing it because it's part of the autonomic system. So we're breathing all the time, but actually we can consciously alter it. We can't consciously alter our heart rate. We can do breath work to alter it, but we can't consciously, I can't decide I'm going to make my heart rate slower or faster, but I can choose to alter my breath. When we do a longer exhale, we move into rest mode. We're telling our brain, by doing a shorter inhale and a longer exhale, we're telling our brain that we're moving into rest. We're telling our vagus nerve that we're moving towards this parasympathetic system being more dominant. And that's one of the reasons why sometimes you might find yourself taking a really deep sigh and it'll feel really relieving, because actually we're saying to our body, I'm resting now. And on a slight side note to that, I don't know about any of you, but I was always told at school that if I was yawning, I was being rude, meant I was tired and it was rude to yawn. Actually, yawning is your brain telling you you're learning something new. It's taking in extra oxygen because you're learning something new, and it's trying to help the brain process the new information. That was a real light bulb moment for me when I learned that one. So one of the things we talk often about with breath work is low, slow and deep. A slower breath rate signals that we're in safety. And so with that longer inhalation and just a slower respiratory rate, we're telling the brain that we're safe, that there's no need for a threat response, and that will help to slow and soften the pain perceptions over time. And actually, breath's always available because we're always doing it. The first thing we do when we come into the world is breathe. The last thing we do when we leave the earth is breathe. Breath's always there. Unlike a lot of other things that we have, it's always there. The medication might not be quite what you need at the time. Physiotherapy is obviously a session at a time. If you're anything like me, potentially not doing all the practice of it, you should be doing in between times. But our breath is always there. It's completely free. We've already got it. And it's available for every single moment that we have. Even when we're in a pain flare-up, we can always use our breath to help us. So, how breath work helps. Right, so first of all, this is how long the breath work has been going on. Confucius, what has to be taught first is the breath. So I just thought this was quite a useful slide. What it is, it's gentle. If you're going to something like Wim Hof, it's not gentle, and it can cause a lot of problems medically for people. But what we want to be doing with something like AKU, we want to be doing really gentle. We want it to be evidence informed. So we want to go to somebody who we know either knows about it or is doing the research to make sure that what they're giving you is exercises that are meant for your condition and that we know work with it. Needs to be accessible. You don't need any equipment for breath work. I mean, people will sell you equipment because people will. I mean, if you want to move to nose breathing, mouth taping's brilliant. Some of the big schools will sell you beautifully cut pieces of tape that will go on your mouth. Or you can go to Amazon and you can buy some micropore and just pop some bits on your mouth. There's no need to spend any money on any of this. It's suitable for all fitness or mobility levels. I've worked with people in wheelchairs. I've worked with people in care homes. There is nothing you need. It works with you. It works for your body. If any of the exercises we do today feel uncomfortable, just stop. I will say to you as we go through them, every bit of this has to feel right for you. If it's uncomfortable, don't do it. If it feels like a tiny stretch and it's a comfortable tiny stretch, brilliant. If it's more than that, it's not for you. And it's something you can always have with you. One of the tools that we're going to do, the extended exhale, is a brilliant one because you can do it absolutely anywhere. You can do it driving in the car, you can do it in the supermarket. Nobody will ever know you're doing it. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant for helping with pain. I mean, I teach another one, it's not in here today, but humming breath. Again, brilliant, but you potentially might not want to be humming in the supermarket. Depends how you feel. What it's not a replacement for medical care. It will never be that. It is there to help, to support. It's not, like I said, it's not about pushing through discomfort. It's not about saying to you, go and hold your breath for as long as you possibly can till you pass out. It's not about any of that. It should never be, you should never be pushed to something that is uncomfortable with breath work, ever. Obviously, it's not a cure for chronic pain. It's a tool for helping you manage. It's not only for experienced people. Every single person can do breath work should they want to. It's also not one size fits all. When I take anybody on as a breathwork client, they probably start swearing about me because I send so many forms, because I need to know about medical stuff. I need to know about stresses in your life. We need to know about all of these sorts of things so that it's tailored to you. At every point, knowing where we're at in terms of how it's feeling in your body, what your medical thing is, if anything's happened since the last session, it's really important that it's about you and tailored to you. Having said that, there are, like we're going to do today, there are exercises that will work for you. So what it can offer you, it can offer you a reduction in pain sensitivity. So over time, the more you practice breath work, the more, I suppose a couple of things, the easier it is to remember the tools, because like a lot of things, it's tools in the box. You will be able to know, this feels like a bit like a flare up. I'm going to do my breath work, and you will find over time they will become more accessible to you, but also you'll start to feel the effects quicker. Again, slowing the breath shifts the nervous system, which reduces cortisol. It reduces the adrenaline, which is all firing towards the fight or flight, and so it will help with anxiety. Massively helps with sleep quality. If you struggle with sleep, breath work is a brilliant thing to do. Even if you just do it in bed at night, just before you go to sleep, it will really help with that. The bigger breath work I'm going to do at the end is coherence breathing, which improves your heart rate variability, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Massively supports cardiovascular resilience. Scientifically proven to make your heart healthier. So it's really helps with that, and it's a brilliant one. It gives you a sense of control as well. So if you're going in, I don't know, say for example, you're going into a meeting with your consultant and you're feeling a bit anxious, a bit of breath work before you go in will help you go in feeling calmer and just more within your body. Often I sort of say we're often out of here when we're feeling anxious, we're not quite in our body. If you use the extended exhale, it brings you back into your body, it centers you down, and you're able to go into more anxiety provoking settings within yourself, knowing that you can go in and that you'll be able to hear what's said to you. Any unpredictable condition, any unpredictable thing that's going on. I don't know, you're going to meet friends that you haven't seen for a while, it makes you feel a bit nervous. Breathwork can help with that. And group practice, if any of you are struggling with feeling a little bit isolated, group practice can just help bring you together. It's just another thing to potentially think about doing. So, a note on safety for today's breathwork. There are no breath holds today. I do not ever do breath holds with people where I don't have their medical background. There is nothing asking you to hold your breath or asking you to stop breathing. It has a massive impact on your cardiovascular system. And without getting a form from every single one of you and everybody that might watch this at any point in the future, we're not doing breath holds. So I want you to do this at your own pace. If anything feels uncomfortable, go back to your natural breathing rhythm. This is not a push through it situation. You know your breath, you know what feels right, you know what doesn't feel right. So go with what feels right to you. When we do the coherence breathe, we stretch the length of our inhale and our exhale. For some people, it might feel uncomfortable, so you stop where you're comfortable. Stay with the breath where it's comfortable. For these breath works, you can do whatever you want. You can sit up, you can lie down, you can be reclined. I wouldn't suggest standing up. That's not the best thing, particularly not for the coherence breathe. But any position you're in, where you're in a resting position, brilliant. If you feel dizzy, please stop. When we slow the breathing, it can occasionally, not very often, but it can cause you to feel a little bit dizzy or a little bit lightheaded. And sometimes that's just because our body is not used to being in the ventral vagal state. So if there's any dizziness, any lightheadedness, just stop. Go back to your normal breathing and it will pass quickly. If it doesn't pass quickly, drop me a note and we'll have a look at it. So, all of the breathing techniques today are gentle, they're accessible, they are things you can do on your own at any time that will not cause any issues. So the first one, and this is called diaphragmatic breathing, but you might also hear it called belly breathing. And this is literally the foundation stone for every bit of functional breath work that we do. What you might notice, if you stop for a minute and close your eyes down just for a second and just feel into your body where you're breathing. Quite often, particularly when we're in pain, we're breathing into that top part of our chest. And when we breathe into the top part of our chest, what we're finding is that actually that's keeping us in that sympathetic state of anxiety. We're breathing in a shallow sympathetic state, and actually what this is going to do is it's moving it into the belly. What happens when we do that is it fully engages the diaphragm. That causes the vagus nerve to do its job and say, everybody calm, we can be ventral vagal, we can be in the parasympathetic, let's rest and digest. Now, I will tell you, when you start feeling your diaphragm, it can feel really odd because so many of us look, when I started doing breath work, I had no idea where my diaphragm even was. And when I started to do this every single day, a couple of times a day, and I started engaging my diaphragm, I was like, what on earth is going on here? And like there was lots of gurgling in my belly. Because actually, when we engage our diaphragm properly, we're getting all of our organs to work properly. 80% of the detoxification of all our bodily organs is caused by the breath and by the diaphragm working effectively with the breath. So this is a really lovely breath that will help, again, all of the systems. It will help to detoxify us. It will do everything. So we're going to do this one together. So I would ask you to put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. And what I want you to do is just breathe in really gently through your nose. Allowing your belly to see, this is the challenge with this when we first start doing it, is that as we're breathing in, we want to try and push the belly out a bit so that the chest stays still and the belly comes out. And then you breathe out slowly, ideally through the nose, but if we've always mouth breathed, that can be a challenge, but always try and do it through the nose. And as you breathe out through the nose, feel the belly falling. So we'll just do this for a couple of minutes and go at your pace. So inhaling through the nose, feeling it going into the belly, and just allowing it to naturally come back out again. And when you're ready, breathing in through the nose again. And again, allowing it to just gently come back out. And in through the nose. And gently back out. I'm just going to let you do that just for 2 minutes, just allowing that to slowly work through. Doing really well. Always just concentrating on allowing the belly to feel like it's moving rather than the chest. You might find with this one that you're also feeling a little bit of expansion on the bottom, the lower ribs. And that's also completely normal, because as we're pushing out with the belly, it makes those lower ribs flare out slightly. Now, as they flare out slightly, what you might find is that when you've done this for a little while, sometimes that might feel a little bit sore on the lower ribs because they're not used to moving quite as much, because we've all moved to, the majority of people have moved to upper chest breathing. So if you find there's any soreness at all with those lower ribs, just a tiny little bit of massage in between the ribs, you get the intercostal muscles, and they'll be the ones that are going, excuse me, you don't usually use me, and this is getting a little bit achy now. Could you stop? Just give them a really gentle massage, really, really gentle. But that's a really beautiful breath, because again, it's really calming. If you can do that morning and evening, or as many times as you can. I mean, this is one that is just such a lovely breath. It's really calming. It engages the diaphragm. As I say, you might notice when you've been doing it a few times, you might notice things start to feel a bit odd in your belly. And that's just everything moving and breathing and doing what it's supposed to do. But when you're not used to it, it can feel a little bit strange. So don't worry about that. So the next breath is the extended exhale that I feel like I've been whittering on about for the past while. So with this, the exhale is activating the parasympathetic system and making that extended exhale, making it longer than the inhale, shifts the body towards calm. So what we do is we inhale, again, all through the nose if that's comfortable. The inhale absolutely through the nose, ideally the exhale through the nose. I haven't changed this. I'm going to change this slide before I send it across. That should say out through the nose. So please ignore that on the slide. Now, sometimes the exhale of 6 can feel a bit too long when you're first doing this. The ideal is an inhale of 4 and an exhale of 6. If that feels too long, doesn't feel comfortable, you can start where it's comfortable. And that might be an inhale of 2 and an exhale of 3, or an inhale of 3 and an exhale of 4. The most important thing with this is that the exhale is longer than the inhale, whatever that is for you, because that longer exhale is where we're telling the body that we're safe and that we're calm. This is brilliant for pain relief. It's brilliant for sleep. It's brilliant for anxiety. It's brilliant when you're feeling low. This is the one that really brings you from in here back into your body. So I'd like to do a couple of rounds of this with you. I'm going to count to the 4 and the 6. If that is not comfortable for you, do what is comfortable for you. There is no pressure on this. As I said, this is your session. This is what's for each of you. So go with what feels right and what feels good for you. Now, this is a good one, ideally sitting up if you can, but obviously when you're in bed at night, don't sit up, lie down. This can be done anywhere. If you're in the supermarket and somebody's annoyed you, this is a good one for keeping you calm. If you're driving and you think, oh, I'm feeling a bit achy, you can do it in the car. There are no times you can't do this. So, just sitting really comfortably and taking the breath to the nose. We go inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And sit at that for a minute or two at the level that is right for you and your body. And when you're ready, just returning your breathing to a natural pace, which you will probably feel is a bit slower naturally now. And what you probably will find if you think about your breathing for a moment, having done those 2 exercises, you will naturally be breathing lower and slower, and your breaths will be deeper. So it will all be nourishing your body, and you'll probably be breathing through your nose all the time. So you're getting that amazing nitric oxide flooding through everything and improving it. So I talked earlier, shouldn't be there. I talked earlier about how good a sigh can feel. So there is actually a proper way to sigh. There are many proper ways to sigh, but this is called the physiological sigh. And this one is really good for the actual physiology of the pain that you're feeling. So it sounds really strange because it's a double inhale. Now, most of the time we are only using between 80 to 90% of our lungs capacity. So we think we're breathing really deeply, we think we're using everything, but actually there is always more. So I'm going to show you how you do this because it sounds really odd. You only ever need to do this 3 times. Never do it more than 3 times. If you go on to do breath work with a coach, you may then potentially expand it to 4 or 5, but never do it more than 3 times, because 3 times, within 3 times, you have got all of the benefit that you'll have got out of this. It gets rid of the CO2, the carbon dioxide, really quickly. So again, it's resetting. For this, it's resetting the respiratory rhythm, and it's helping you get straight back into ventral vagal. So we're out of fear and flight, but also physiologically, we've reset that. So the double inhale looks like this. You breathe in fully through your nose, and then you do a second inhale. So it goes like this, you go. So it's really, first time somebody told me to do it, I thought they'd gone a bit mad. But there is always room, and actually it's a really good lesson that when we're feeling panicky and we're getting a bit anxious and we're thinking we can't take enough air on, there is always that second inhale. And actually it's one that free divers use quite a lot. So if you all want to give it a go, I'll demonstrate it another time for you to see it. So it's do a big inhale first, and then a small second one. And exhaling really slowly through the mouth. You can exhale as long and as slow as you want. Again, part of it is that extended exhale that lets the body know it's safe, but it's also about making it as low and long and slow as you can. So if we do 3 of those in succession, so inhale 1, second, and exhale really slowly. And a second one. And then one last one. And with that one, you might feel a little bit more physiologically in your body. Sometimes you might feel, sometimes it can feel like you can feel the blood in your fingers a bit more. You can feel everything moving around your body a bit more. Not always, and not for everybody. We all have different ways of having interoception and knowing what things feel like in our body. So it may feel different, it may not. But that, again, is just a really lovely, really easy, as I said, breath work is not difficult. It's knowing how to do it so that it's optimal for your health condition. None of this is hard. The things like the Wim Hof, and I have absolutely no issue with Wim Hof at all, but they're very activating breaths. They are quite hard work. And actually with AKU, you don't want anything like that. This needs to be something that supports you and holds you, something that can help you in those pain flare-ups in those anxious moments. So what we're going to do now, this is the coherence breathing I was talking about. It's also referred to as heart coherence breathing. I'm going to tell you all about it, and then we're going to do the breath work for 15 to 20 minutes, depending how much time we've got left on the clock, because we'll do it and then it'll take a few minutes to come back from. Because we're changing things, it is a slightly altered state of consciousness. That's nothing to be scared of. It's like more of a meditative thing, but there are reasons why this is amazingly good for you. So, heart rate variability is one of those things. When we think about our heart rate, we all kind of assume our heart is like a metronome and that it just goes tick, tock, tick, tock. Doesn't, and it never should do. Actually, what we want throughout the day is we want our heart to be going faster at some times and slower at other times. We need to have that variability. The natural variation is a marker of our nervous system being really healthy and resilient to stuff. So the more we have that variability, the healthier we are. The more we are going up and down that vagal ladder, the faster we can recover, the more resilient we are, the healthier we are. Now, chronic pain can massively affect our heart rate variability because it all wears down the flexibility of the nervous system over stress. Coherence breathing is the thing that helps with our heart rate variability. Now, the coherence is because what we're doing is we're bringing our heart rate, our respiratory rate, and our blood pressure into complete coherence. So they are all working at the exact same speed. Now, for most people, research has shown that the average is 5.5 breaths per minute. For some people, it'll be 5. For some people, it'll be up to 6. Obviously, there's individual variation because there will be. That's the way this stuff works. We're all different. All of us could experience the same thing and we'll all have seen it slightly differently. And the effects of regular coherence breathing massively impacts our heart rate variability over the weeks. And I have had clients who have had high blood pressure and who, after doing coherence breathing consistently for a couple of months, have brought that high blood pressure down. It strengthens the whole cardiovascular system. It's one of the most researched breaths that we have, and it's absolutely brilliant for us. So, what is it? It's building up to 5 to 6 breaths per minute. Now, people will tell you that you can go straight in at 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out. You can't. It takes a while to get to that. When we do it, you will sit at what is comfortable for you. If 6 seconds inhale and 6 seconds exhale is comfortable for you, brilliant, do it. If it feels like a tiny stretch but comfortable, brilliant, do it. If 5 is where you're comfortable, do it at 5. If 4 is where it's right, do it at 4. As I said before, this is about you guys and what feels right for you. So at 5.5 breaths per minute, this sort of magic coherence moment, the heart rate, the blood pressure and the respiratory systems completely synchronize, it's called, why they give things such long names, I don't know. It's cardiorespiratory coherence, and it's that magic moment when everything's working together. The heart rate variability is at its maximum, the cardiovascular system's resonant frequency. Again, there's no breath holds, it's all equal, continuous inhale and exhale. What's really interesting, if any of you are a bit more on the woo side like I am, so quantum physics have proven that we are all one being. We are all one. And when we do this resonance breathing, this coherence breathing, when we're at 5.5 breaths in and out, what they have found is actually our heart expands, the actual impact of our heart and kindness goes out into the world even further. Don't know how they've researched it, but they have. So what a beautiful thing. Not only are we making ourselves healthier, but we're putting more love out into the world purely by changing our breathing. That's pretty lovely to me. So research around heart rate variability shows that it increases the parasympathetic activity, again, reduces our pain sensitivity, increases our tolerance to pain. It reduces the cortisol, which reduces the anxiety. And that happens within one session. Within one session of coherence breathing, we're reducing our cortisol. There are so many people at the moment with massively elevated cortisol levels because as a generation, we're working at higher stress levels than we have ever lived through before. You know, the phone's always ringing, social media is always pinging, somebody always wants something. And that means our cortisol is constantly up, up, up. 10 minutes of this, we've brought it down to below anything we need to worry about. The evidence is also showing that coherence breathing is brilliant for anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and just general well-being. The more we practice it, the better we feel, the happier we feel. And in particular, because it's supporting the blood pressure regulation and the cardiovascular resilience, it's brilliant for people with AKU. So, how to practice it? We slowly build up to the inhale of 4 and the exhale of 6. Now, this is the only time you will ever see me working with my phone because it's really important that we count the seconds. We're not worried about it's not just a random feeling of 1, 2, 3, it's by the second. So, find a position that's really comfortable. You can be seated or lying down or just leaning on a comfy chair, but you do have to be seated or lying down, not standing. Don't want anything to be uncomfortable. Your body needs to be fully supported. You can place your hands on your belly, and I would suggest this for the first few times you do it because it just helps you be aware that you're breathing in and out through your belly. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the nose. So it's a slow, continuous flow. And it says here, continue and let the counting go. I will be doing the counting for you. What we will do is we'll start with 4 and I'll count for a minute or so until you're in the rhythm of 4. And then I'll let you just breathe that for a couple of minutes. Then I will talk you up to 5. If 5's comfortable for you, brilliant. Once I've talked you through a few rounds for a minute or 2, I'll let you sit there for a few minutes. And then if it's comfortable and if it feels right for you, we'll go to 6. Wherever you finish that is comfortable for you, sit at that. We're going to sit there for about 10 minutes. And then afterwards, I'll bring you back to the room. So just follow my voice and do what feels right for you. So find a position that's comfortable. You can keep your eyes closed if you want or have a downward gaze. You don't need to put your cameras on if you don't want to. Make sure you're comfortable. So if you've got a tight belt on, if you've got shoes that are uncomfortable, make yourself comfortable. Just remember, this is for you. So it's whatever is comfortable for you. Follow the breath, follow my voice, do what feels right. And if at any point anything feels weird, just stop, go back to normal breathing. This is always about what is right for you. So let me just get my stopwatch on so I can time the seconds for you all. And make yourselves really comfortable, sitting or lying, wherever is right for you. And breathe in, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. 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 Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And stay in that rhythm for a moment or two. So on the next inhale, we're going to stretch it to an inhale of 5. So inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And sit at that level for a couple of minutes. And on the next inhale, we're going to move it up to 6. Now, if this is too much, stay with what's comfortable for you. It's always a choice for you. So inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And stay at that rhythm for the next few minutes. Knowing that this time is for you. There is nowhere else to be. There is nothing else to do. Breathing into this, knowing your body is nourishing itself, knowing that this beautiful space of coherence, your body is getting everything it needs to make itself healthier. Keep breathing, you're doing really well. Keep breathing, you're all doing really, really well. Allowing that coherence to work its magic and giving yourself space and time in the day to look after you. No demands from anyone else, just space for you. So we're in the last couple of minutes of this breathe now. So take everything you need from it. Give yourself the last few minutes to enjoy that coherence and that knowledge that this time is for you. So very slowly now, keeping your eyes closed, allow your breathing to return to normal, knowing that it will probably be calmer, lower, slower than it was before you started this breathe. And slowly feel your feet, feel the floor beneath you and the seat or bed beneath you. Slowly coming back into your body. Before you open your eyes, as you come back into your body, start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. And when you think you're ready to open your eyes, before you do, tap your fingertips together really gently. Slowly coming back at the pace that is right for you, no one else, just what's right for you. So I'm going to make a slight assumption that everybody's either back or very nearly back. That's quite a deep breath. When you do it for that length of time, your body's in complete coherence. And actually what happens is we allow our mind to go deeper into who we are and to connect more deeply in with ourselves. So what's really good when you've done a breath like this is to take a moment just to notice what's going on in your body. Don't need to add any labels, don't need to try and explain it. There's no reason to try and add cognition to any of this. But have a think about how your body feels. What feels different, if anything feels different, to how you were at the beginning. Was there any of it that felt a bit odd? Sometimes when we're moving up to that 6, it can feel a stretch. And as I said, if it doesn't feel right for you, don't go with it. Is there anything that you want to carry on doing in the future with any of this? Or just points for you to have a think about. So in terms of breath work, it's really good to try and, if any of this has helped you, it's really good to try and build a daily practice around this. So 5 to 10 minutes every day is more valuable than one really long session once a month or once a year. Consistency builds those blocks. And for me, it's about habit stacking. I'm terrible at adding anything new in, so I have to habit stack it. So I will try and do the extended exhale when I'm put the kettle on or when I go for a wee. Habit stacked, something that you do regularly. If you can do it in the morning and the evening, it's really beneficial because doing it in the morning sets you up for the day. If you do it just before you go to bed or when you're in bed, it helps you sleep better. The physiological sighs, the extended exhale, are the perfect tools in your toolkit for pain flare-ups and for anxiety. You can practice this stuff anywhere. Apart from the coherence breathe, that longer breathe, you need to be sitting down or lying down. The rest of it you can do anywhere. Do it in the car, do it in the supermarket, do it when you're sitting watching the telly, whatever it works. And if it's helpful for you, and I appreciate it's not for everybody, writing down a sentence about how you feel, you can track over time. You know, you might find that for you, the physiological sigh is more effective in a pain flare-up than the extended exhale. You might find it's not. But if you track what helps you and how it makes you feel, that can be really beneficial. Also, if you can try and build that coherence breath in as we said, if you can do it once a day, and it doesn't have to be for 15 minutes, 10 minutes is the optimum, ideally, for a daily practice. That will really help with cardiac and blood pressure issues. Be really gentle. If you miss a day, the world is not going to end. You know, we are taught to be so hard on ourselves. The world's not going to end if you miss a day. Just get back on it the next day. You go on holiday, you don't do it for 3 weeks. You come back, you go, oh, I've forgotten it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Just start when you can. Anything is better than nothing. Again, if this resonates for you. So I'm going to move to questions now, if I can get back to the chat. And obviously a massive thank you from me. There is a QR code. If you are interested in it, it will give you take you to the website, which will give you a free download on breathwork for pain, anxiety and stress. And if you have any questions, feel free. I'm most active on Instagram. If you've got any questions or you'd like anything clarified, obviously ask questions now. But if there is something, if later today or tomorrow or whenever you kind of go, I don't remember that, or what on earth was that about, or I've been doing this and I'm not quite sure I'm doing it right, feel free to message me. You know, all of that is fine. I am always here. So thank you ever so much. I really hope you've got something from this. If it's for you, and obviously if it's not for you, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to stop the share so I can go to the chat and see if there are any questions. So yeah, any questions, etc., just let me know.
Can you see the one that's in there, Charlotte?
No.
I'll just read it out to you. So it says, I've heard that people diagnosed with AKU have to change their eating habits within, let me just scroll up, bear with, within a short space of time, and often with no flexibility allowed. And this person often has panic attacks in situations like this. How can they cope with that?
So that extended exhale is a really, really good one for panic attacks because it brings us straight back in. So if you can practice that extended exhale, what I find and what a lot of my clients have found is that if we practice it regularly, it's an easier tool to reach for in a panic attack situation or another situation. If we're, you know, because it's those things that we remember, isn't it? You kind of go, oh, I'm really panicking. Okay, I've got a tool for this. The extended exhale, another one that's really good. The physiological side is brilliant, but in a panic, trying to can be really difficult because you're prone to be hyperventilating in a panic attack. So a really good one that I haven't talked about today is the humming breath. So it sounds really weird. You breathe in through the nose and then you exhale with a closed mouth and you hum as you do it. So, and you will get a vibration in your face, which will potentially feel a bit weird. What it does is it massages your vagal nerve. So it really calms everything. And the sensation in your face can distract you from the panic as well as an extra thing. Play around with where that hum is. You can do it really high, you can do it really low, you can play around with it. My kids probably think I'm a bit bonkers. They came in the other day and I was doing it and my son was like, are you trying Mongolian throat singing, mum? Because I was trying to do it really low. Because the tone you do it at will vibrate in different places in your head and face. So that's a really good one to do as well, the humming breath. Really good for panic, both of those. And yeah, if you want any information on the humming breath, just let me know. I can pop it over to Hannah to send round. So yeah. Any other questions? Anything I can help with at all?
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Honestly, it's I don't know, I was sat there really trying to take part as well. And I think because we just breathe naturally as part of our day-to-day life, you take for granted that there are other things that you can do with it. So
yeah,
that was a really good taster into the things that you do. So thank you so much for coming along and
not a problem at all.
presenting for us.
Yeah, it really is a superpower that we don't know we've got. We've been so divorced from it that it seems really weird. And when you change it, like particularly that longer breath practice, when you change it, you don't realize you are going into your brain waves are changing into a more relaxed state. And it's
Mm.
so good for every bit of us. So, yeah. Yes, absolutely. All the ones we've done today, you can do with children. Anything more, breath holds or anything. I mean, like I said before, I wouldn't do any breath holds with any of you guys anyway. But any of those breaths you can do with children. Absolutely. And it's such a, I work with quite a few neurodivergent children who find these really helpful for learning to cope in anxiety provoking situations. Any of these are brilliant for kids, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Charlotte.
No, thank you so
Thank
much. It's been an
you.
absolute pleasure to see you all. And as I say, any questions that pop up, because I know what it's like, it'd be tomorrow, you'll suddenly go, oh, I wish I'd asked. Just just send them on across. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Charlotte. That's
Have
great.
a fantastic rest of your day, everyone. Take care.
Good rest of the day to you
Thank
as well,
you.
Charlotte.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Sophie Taylor. As you can see from my first slide, I work as a advanced clinical physiotherapy practitioner and clinical physiotherapy specialist based at Broad Green Hospital in Liverpool, which is part of the University Hospitals of Liverpool group. I'm also a senior lecturer at Manchester Metropolitan University, which is where I am today. So thank you very much to Hannah and Georgia and yourselves for inviting me along to speak with you today. And just share a little bit around my experience of working with people with Alkaptonuria and what we offer within our physiotherapy service. So I would just take you through what I propose to discuss with you for the next few minutes. What I'd like to share is the manifestations of alkaptonuria on the musculoskeletal system, because as physiotherapists, that is our prime involvement with people with alkaptonuria. Tell you a little bit about what we offer within our physiotherapy service for patients with alkaptonuria. Talk a lot about the role of exercise, a bit around pain management. I know you've got a presentation from Dr. Jones this afternoon around pain management, but where physiotherapy fits into that. Just highlight some resources to you in a more generic way, and I'll talk through those a little bit more when we get to that. And then I will open it up and very happy to take any questions from you. And obviously, if I can't answer those questions, I will take them away, and then I can come back to Hannah and Georgia with some answers for you as well. But want to make it as interactive and useful to you as possible, really. So, if we start off with thinking about how alkaptonuria affects the musculoskeletal system, and obviously I know that you are living with alkaptonuria, so you will have your own lived experience, so you don't need me to tell you, but this is what has been identified through literature and research. Now, this isn't terribly recent research, and as I'll go on to say, the research in terms of physiotherapy management and in alkaptonuria is still quite sparse, really. But 20 years ago, Monique Perry, who's an American physiotherapist, undertook a study that identified that disability is common and can be severe in individuals with alkaptonuria. Obviously, the course of that has changed somewhat in recent years since the advent of particularly of nitazoxanone, but it is recognised that the condition, if left unchecked, can have profound effects on the musculoskeletal system, and the disability that people with the condition describe seems to correlate very much with findings of joint restriction and their experience of pain as well. And pain is very much a characteristic of this condition. It's very complex in its effects and far-reaching in its impact as well. And not only is it the physical lived experience of pain, the unpleasant sensory experience of living with pain, it also impacts very much on mood. It can have mood-lowering effects. It can create anxiety. It can impact on your social role as well, in lots of different spheres of life, and can potentially lead to social isolation. So the key things that we recognise as physiotherapists are very much the musculoskeletal effect and the impact of living with chronic pain. Okay, so Alkaptonuria, as you know, is a progressive metabolic disorder characterized by homogentisic acid accumulation, and has lots of effects on different musculoskeletal structures within the body. It can lead to cartilage degradation through the ochronosis, change in the coloration and structure of cartilage. Again, this can lead to weakening and tendon rupture, ligament weakening, and early onset and severe onset of a more non-inflammatory osteoarthritis type presentation. And the musculoskeletal manifestations resemble severe early onset osteoarthritis and appear to most commonly affect the spine, the hips, and the shoulders. We seem to see less severe effects in the smaller joints, unlike a lot of the inflammatory arthritis that I see in my wider role working in rheumatology, which often affects small joints. It seems that the big major weight-bearing joints, the spine, the hips, and the knees, are more profoundly affected with AKU. And this comes from a review that was published in Nature just back in 2024. So, as we've previously said, these physiological changes can lead to pain, loss of range of movement, joint stiffness, loss of muscle strength and length, so loss of flexibility, overall impact on physical functioning, and that can include mobility, gait, so walking patterns and balance, and also deconditioning. And we talk about deconditioning means loss of overall endurance, vitality, stamina, and reduced exercise tolerance. So that's the amount of activity that you can undertake without becoming fatigued. And this early severe arthropathy can lead to early joint failure, joint destruction, and lead to the requirement for joint arthroplasty, so joint replacement. And all of this can very much impact on your levels of function and levels of personal independence as well. So, as I said earlier, the evidence base for physiotherapy in Alkaptonuria does remain limited. And it seems to be largely consensus studies, observational studies, research into the biomechanics, registry data. We've got enormous amounts of registry data now at the National Alkaptonuria Centre, and individual case reports rather than what would be classed as the gold standard randomised control trials, particularly focused on physiotherapy. Obviously, there is a vast amount of research, and I know Professor Ranganath is going to provide you with an update later on, but specifically related to physiotherapy, it remains quite limited, really. However, contemporary literature does seem to support that. Does consistently support that ongoing physiotherapy, appropriately prescribed exercise management, are key components of the wider multidisciplinary management of Alkaptonuria, alongside pharmacological treatments, particularly with the advent of nitisinone, pain management and orthopedic intervention when required. So our role in physiotherapy, I've put detection. Physiotherapists might not primarily identify Alkaptonuria, and I know now that it is detected often earlier, but I think in us having greater awareness of a rare condition such as Alkaptonuria, and we come into contact with lots of patients with a broad range of musculoskeletal disorders, we are well positioned to identify if Alkaptonuria is potentially a diagnosis that has not previously been identified. So we wouldn't make the diagnosis, but maybe we can be instrumental in its recognition. Certainly, we undertake a comprehensive assessment with our patients, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And I know many of you will have been to our service in Liverpool and have come for our annual reviews at the NAC. But I'll just highlight what we include within those. And our management is not so much about treating the metabolic defect itself or treating the biochemical underlying causative factors, but it's more about addressing those biomechanical and functional and musculoskeletal consequences that I've outlined already around stiffness, weakness, reduced mobility and functional loss. So that's we work in a supportive role to optimize people with Alkaptonuria's mobility, function, quality of life, to enable you to continue to live life as fully and as independently as you would absolutely want to do. Okay, and then obviously we have a big role in monitoring, evaluation, and we've been fortunate enough to be involved with some research. You will all be familiar with the Sonia 2 trial, which was absolutely groundbreaking, and myself and my colleague played a role in that, in so much as we gathered a lot of physical musculoskeletal data around that. Around measuring joint range and function over a 5-year period when that trial was running. Okay, so you will be familiar, many of you I'm sure, with the Robert Gregory National Alkaptonuria Centre based at the Royal Liverpool and Broad Green hospitals, and we are delighted to welcome cohorts of you once or twice a month throughout the year, and as part of your wider assessment and annual review within the centre, we offer assessment for our patients within the physiotherapy department at Broad Green Hospital. And you've been very generous and allowed us to allow our more junior physiotherapists to work with you and have a unique opportunity to support and work with yourselves with a very rare condition. And I know they found it really tremendously interesting and a great opportunity to learn. So thank you for allowing our colleagues to work with you. So you will know that even prior to coming for your assessment, we undertake a lot of questionnaires, and these are really valuable in monitoring functional levels within your joints. So particularly the ones that we look at are the AKU, which is a self-administered questionnaire that looks particularly at knee function. It asks you lots of questions about how you are functioning in relation to your knee mobility. We also look at the Oxford Shoulder Score, and that evaluates the impact of shoulder shoulder function, on your quality of life and function. And we also use a tool called the HAQ, the Health Assessment Questionnaire, which is more generic and asks about day-to-day mobility and function. And then once a year, you'll be contacted by Leanne and asked to complete a quality of life outcome measure that's called the SF36. So we know that there is a lot involved, and it's a considerable amount of work for yourselves when you come for the annual review. But in completing those assessments, we're very appreciative because it has allowed us to generate a lot of data that we can look at those trends over time and informs our knowledge and management of the condition. We also complete a very extensive physical assessment as well. So we look at the range of movement in lots of different joints. So the axial joints, so they're the spinal joints at the spine, the lumbar, the cervical spine, the neck, and the lumbar spine, the lower back. And we look at all the peripheral joints as well. So the shoulders, the elbows, wrists. We do strength tests at the hands. We also look at the hips, the knees, the ankles, and the feet as well. Sorry, went forward too quickly there. We also use some functional measures. We do the timed up and go test, which is a very reflective of both lower limb strength and also cardiovascular function. So a test where you're seated, we ask you to walk forwards for a minute, turn around, and then sit back down again. That gives us loads of useful data about functional capacity. We also do a test called the functional reach, where we ask you to stand and then reach forward as far as you can before you, obviously we don't want you to fall over, we need it to be safe, but again, that gives us some really helpful information about balance as well. And then we also do the timed sit to stand test, which is a really helpful functional test as well. And then once you've we do the timed walk as well. And then once you've completed all of that, there's opportunity then to have some conversation with our physiotherapists and have some advice and education and ask some questions. And at the end, it might be helpful for you to give us some feedback about that as well, because I think that's maybe an area that we could perhaps expand and offer more. And then we compile all of that information into a report, which goes into your larger report, which Leanne Evans compiles for us, and then that is shared with your GP. And obviously, we're aware that many of you do not live locally to Liverpool, so we're not able to offer you ongoing physiotherapy within our service locally. But if we identify that you have a particular need for physiotherapy or other services in the community, we can liaise with your GP and request that they can facilitate those for you as well. And then annually, we also present, because this is one of our key metrics to NHS England, who provide the funding for the NAC, is a quality of life report. So that when you've completed the SF36, that's a specific questionnaire, not specific to Alkaptonuria, but it's specific about asking about quality of life. And it's got different domains that ask about fatigue and daily function and emotional well-being, number of different domains. We gather that information and then I put that into a report, which is part of the overall annual report to NHS England. So again, a huge thank you to you all, because that is just one small component of your annual review at the National Alkaptonuria Centre, and that in itself is a tremendous amount of work and contribution from yourselves. And but all of this data is really, really helpful, immensely useful in informing us about progression of condition and informing management going forward, really. So, you know, we're immensely grateful to you for your contribution to all of this. Okay, so this, I feel a bit pompous telling you about this, but this is a little piece of work that I did along with my colleague here at Manchester University, Dr. Nick Dobbin, who has got a biochemistry background, and this was based on some of the data that we gathered from the Sonia 2 trial that was published about 5 years ago now, 6 years ago. But we took some of the data from that study and we did some further analysis on it, and we looked at the hip joints, and what it told us really was that there were significant reductions in range of movement in the hip. We found some data from they're called normative healthy population, so people without AKU, and we compared that with data that we had from our patients who had participated in the Sonia 2 trial, and we found that limitation progressed with age really, and there was particular limitation at the hip joint in terms of the movement of flexion, so that's the movement of bringing the hip closer to the body, so bending the hip upwards, and then the movement of abduction, and that's the movement of taking the hip out to the side. So it was useful clinically in so much as range of movement that we measure can be prognostic or can be an indicator of possible disease progression and also possible functional decline. So it reinforced to us that range of movement should be part of routine rehabilitation monitoring. It's an important part of being able to monitor progression of Alkaptonuria. And we can use this range of movement to identify if there are changes in function, and then that can inform intervention really. So early identification of restriction hopefully will allow us to target exercise program to prevent some of the more serious consequences and potential disability that can arise as a result of having Alkaptonuria. And we've got some more data, and we'll analyze it for other joints as well. So that's just a little way that we've looked at some data that was being gathered as part of a bigger trial, and then just drilled down into that a little bit more. So that was done by myself and Nick with a tremendous amount of support. I have to credit from Professor Ranganath as well. So thinking now about what do we offer as physiotherapists in terms of supporting management of Alkaptonuria. So certainly a lot of advice and education around maintaining, improving exercise tolerance, that ability to continue to move and to be active and not reduce those levels of capacity really. Recognition of symptoms and functional changes, pain management, and also pacing and planning, because along with chronic pain, fatigue, low levels of energy can be a huge factor of that. And an effective strategy in managing that is pacing. And recognize and trying to avoid sort of overall underactivity cycling, really. So not working so you're what's sometimes described as boom and bust. So you keep going until you sort of hit the wall, and then you're unable to continue, and you have to take a prolonged period of rest, rather than sort of doing things, if at all possible, in a more measured way that allows you to use your energy and conserve your energy over a longer period of time. And recognizing maybe when you're planning, there's sometimes times that require high levels of energy expenditure, and how you balance that with appropriate rest to make sure that you've got sufficient energy to be available to you to complete what it is that you want to do as well. And we always work alongside you with your family, carers, to try and really promote self-management, about empowering yourself and giving you the confidence to be able to self-manage your condition as far as is possible. And also, where appropriate, I've talked about liaising with GP, liaising with other services, disciplines, to optimize your management of your condition. Okay, so obviously I'm going to say this, I'm a physiotherapist. Exercise is absolutely the most important single thing that you can do in terms of self-management. Okay, I'll just talk about that a little bit more and how that looks. Okay. So, and we'll talk a little bit more, exercise. We'll talk about the barriers to exercise, but actually, it can be easier than you think if you try and make activity a part of your daily routine. And the key to it, I think, really is finding things that you like, that you enjoy, and fit into your daily routine. And, when I have discussions with patients about exercise, it's really thinking about what is important to you. What is it you want to achieve? What do you enjoy doing? There's no point me suggesting to you, well, why don't you go swimming? If you hate swimming, if you've got a fear of water, if you can't think of anything worse, it's absolutely pointless me trying to urge and cajole and persuade you to do something like that because it's not going to stick, is it really? It's got to be something that you enjoy doing, and there's so many ways that you can be physically active. So it's finding out what works best for you. You know, find people to do it with you, friends, family. That can always help to keep you motivated, can't you? And just simply reducing, I know we're all sitting down doing this conference, but reducing the amount of time that you're inactive during the day. The evidence now that prolonged sitting is as harmful to us as we know smoking is now, and it doesn't mean we have to be running around crazily all day long, but just, if we can try and break up periods of prolonged sitting. And there's government guidance that you might be aware of, which I'll just take us on to in a minute, that determine or gives us some guidance as to how active we should be really. Okay, so these are current government guidelines around how active we should be throughout our weeks, really. So we should aim to be active daily. Now, that doesn't mean we have to be at the gym all the time or, pumping iron or anything like that, but a brief walk or, keeping mobile in your own home can make a huge difference. But ideally, what we should be doing, all of us as adults, is doing at least 150 minutes, which amounts up to about 2.5 hours over the course of a week of moderate intensity activity in bouts of 10 minutes or more. So ideally, we would do 30 minutes on at least 5 days of the week. You don't have to do that 30 minutes continuously. You could do like 3 short walks or a little bit of weightlifting, a bit of dancing, whatever it is that you enjoy doing. Or alternatively, you could do a shorter period of time and do 75 minutes of what's described as vigorous activity. So that's not always suitable. If you've got some of the manifestations of Alkaptonuria, but it's finding what you really enjoy. Okay, so what does 150 minutes of moderate activity look like? Okay, so that could be walking. It could be, walking. You don't need any, it doesn't cost anything. You don't need any equipment. You literally just put on your shoes and you're out of the door, aren't you? Or you could even just do it. You could even do it in your own home to a certain extent, couldn't you, if the weather wasn't great? Water aerobics, exercise in water. I always love exercising water, so I always really passionate about this, but it's not for everybody, but a great way. Your joints are offloaded, the buoyancy of the water can support your joints, but you can still do some great cardiovascular work and some strengthening work as well. Dancing event. I put ballroom and line dancing. It could be any kind of dancing. It could be, disco dancing. You could be at a rave, whatever, floats your boat, really. Any kind of dancing is absolutely brilliant in terms of balance, coordination. And we'll talk about some of the mental health benefits of exercise as well. Even if you create your own kitchen disco, that is dancing, isn't it? What you enjoy doing. Riding a bike, it could be on level ground. It could even be a static bike, couldn't it? That you've got in your own home. It could be on level ground, or if you've got somewhere with a little bit of undulating ground, that will challenge you even further. It could be something, if you like, racket sports. It could be something like tennis. It could be badminton. Squash is quite an aggressive exercise, but if that's what you enjoy. Gardening, absolutely brilliant. Pushing your lawnmower, doing a little bit of digging, hoeing, all of those sorts of things. Great if you like, exercising, water, canoeing, volleyball. If that's, that is not an exhaustive list, is it at all? But it's just suggesting to you things that you could possibly engage in. So vigorous activity would look like jogging, or particularly faster running, more intense aerobic exercise classes, more vigorous swimming, fast cycling, singles tennis, because obviously you have to work harder because it's just you playing. Contact sports, we tend to suggest maybe contact sports are not the best because of some of the musculoskeletal benefits. Things like more vigorous hiking up mountains and things like that, more energetic dancing. Martial arts, I would probably say, depends. I mean, gentle martial arts, may be okay, but things maybe a little bit more vigorous like judo, jiu-jitsu, karate, maybe less so. But that's just to give you an example of the sorts of things that would comprise of moderate or more vigorous exercise. And this is a slightly modified chart. It says for disabled adults. Now, that's a very generic sort of term, isn't it? Again, this is government guidance. This is what's currently, it's published in 2019, but it's still current evidence, really. But I think what it is recognising now, describing disabled adults is very non-specific, isn't it? But what it recognises is that anybody, exercise is as suitable for anybody at any level of ability or age, really. Okay, so things like a moderate exercise would be something that causes us to get a little bit warmer, breathe a bit harder, your heart's beating a little bit faster, but you should be able to carry on a conversation. So things like brisk walking, a bit of jogging, maybe riding a bike. Vigorous things are things that will make us really hot, really warm, and maybe it wouldn't be possible to carry a conversation on. So running a bit faster, fast swimming, or things like playing a game of football, maybe. So just to give you an idea, but it's generic, it's not specific to people with AKU, but it recognises that exercise has got an important part to play in all of our lives, really. Now, what is really recognised is the importance of strength training. Okay, at least twice a week. Okay, so strength training doesn't need to be, huge bodybuilding or Olympic level weightlifting. Using some light weights, some resistive bands, or actually even using your own body weight is a brilliant way. So I don't know if any of you do Pilates or yoga, but physical activities that strengthen muscles using your own body weight. And working against resistance and using major muscle groups. So yes, you can use resistive weights. So they could be free weights, or they could be weights that are part of weight machinery, like you might find in a gym. Or, as I say, activities that use your own body weight or own resistance. So, as I say, yoga and Pilates are prime examples of that, really. And swimming, to a certain extent, is a resistive exercise as well. If you're swimming, you are moving the water. So and certainly the faster you work, the more resistive that exercise is. And it's particularly good we talk about site-specific resistive exercise as well. So muscle strength is really necessary for all our day-to-day movements. Even just to get up from a chair, you need a degree of strength, don't you, to be able to do that. Sit to stand becomes difficult if we lose if we get to a critical level and we don't have that lower limb and core strength. But you just think of everything that you do on a day-to-day basis, whether it be climbing the stairs, on and off a chair, on and off the toilet even, to get on and off the loo, in and out of a bath, everything we do, if we're lifting, carrying, moving things around the home, carrying our bags, things like that. We all require a degree of strength to be able to do any of those things, really. So, and it's also strength is really important for our bone health as well. So, resistive exercise stimulates osteoblasts, which are bone building cells, to be active and create new bone tissue. So resistive work can help with that. So whether it's carrying weights or, as I've said, swimming, really helpful. It stimulates particularly sites where soft tissues attach to bones. So they're called sites of enthesis. They are particular areas where there's a lot of osteoblast activity there. So it stimulates those sites to get those osteoblasts active and working and creating new blood cells. And also it has a beneficial effect in terms of regulation of blood sugar, blood pressure, and can help with weight maintenance as well, which is an important part of self-management as well, isn't it? And it's not for just for aesthetic reasons, but actually keeping to a healthy weight can help optimize or minimize overload on particularly weight-bearing joints as well. Okay. So I just want to share this with you about, I don't know if this is a term that you're familiar with or not, but um, sarcopenia is a term that's used to describe gradual loss of muscle mass and strength over a period of time. And I don't know if, can you see that diagram there? I don't know if, because I'm conscious I can see myself in a column on the right there. Is it missing half the slides for you? I don't know if we can make that smaller or not, because it shows the picture on the slide there. I don't know, Hannah, is there any way? Because I thought it was just me, but I think it's maybe all of us. I don't know if we can minimize that.
I can see the picture. I think it's fine.
Have I cut me down now a bit? Is that better?
It all looks good to me.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, thank you so much. So, so it's a gradual loss of muscle mass and strength over time. And if you look at those two diagrams there, it shows the one where I'm looking on my left, it shows obviously in the upper limb there, doesn't it? It shows the biceps muscles that bend the elbow and raise the shoulder. So it shows a good, hypertrophied, strong, good, bulky muscle there. Okay, that's got, lots and lots of strong muscle fibers there that can generate a force and be able to do the work of bending and straightening the arm and also lifting the shoulder as well. If you look at the one on the left, it shows how that muscle has diminished, how it's atrophied. It's a lot smaller, a lot less bulk, isn't it? And that muscle is not going to be able to generate the same forces that muscle on the left can do. So and if sarcopenia is left untreated, unmanaged, it can, as you could imagine, lead to impairments in mobility and then quality of life, particularly in the lower limbs. If your muscles become so atrophied and weak, it will really impact on your ability to be functional. So, as I say, getting in and out of a chair, climbing the stairs, getting in and out of the car, those sorts of things. So it's a slow, progressive, but not inevitable skeletal muscle disorder, and it leads to loss of muscle mass and muscle strength. And terrifyingly enough, it can actually begin in midlife. So, I'm looking at myself now and being aware that, from the age of 50 onwards, we typically our muscle mass can decline by 1 to 2% per year, which doesn't sound a lot, but you think over a 10-year period, you could have lost 10 to 15% of your muscle mass if it was left unchecked. And there are risk factors that can be linked to sarcopenia, particularly around a sedentary lifestyle, smoking, alcohol use, poor dietary intake, particularly low protein diets, and other health conditions alongside. So multimorbidity, different conditions, numerous different health conditions, polypharmacy, so taking lots of different medications, and also inpatient stays in hospital as well, where your mobility, if you've had periods of bed rest after surgery, and also social isolation, so not getting out, being, quite isolated in home, they are risk factors for developing sarcopenia. But it's not an inevitability, and it can be managed as well. So this is where, again, strength training comes in to lead to improvements in muscle function, and then the obvious functional levels, personal independence that goes around with that. So early intervention and that education around those risk factors that can accelerate the process. So things like good nutrition, alcohol, smoking, and obviously exercise as well can really enhance prevention or management of this disease. So I'm just highlighting that to you, not to terrify you, but just to, I think for all of us, whether you have a condition or not, it's something all of us need to be aware of, that we can lose muscle bulk as we age, and we need to be mindful about how we can address that, definitely. So that's very recently come from the British Journal of Sports Medicine. Okay. Another thing I just want to highlight to you as well is about fall prevention, and which links to what we've just talked about. Loss of muscle mass can obviously lead to poor muscle mass, leads to weakness, to poorer balance, to frailty, and increased risk for falls. Okay, and then the consequences of falls can be severe. It could rate from no injury, but also could lead to minor injuries or more severe injuries, including fractures, head injury, and longer term consequences and restriction in function as a result of that. So fall avoidance is really, really important. And as we've said earlier, sort of avoiding long periods of static or immobility, sedentary behaviour is quite a high risk factor for other ill health, no matter how much other exercise you do. So just sort of highlighting again about this strength training and reducing the risk of falls to improve that strength, balance, and coordination. And again, talking about some examples of that would include things like just regular walking, Tai Chi, absolutely brilliant for balance, and line dancing as well has got really strong evidence. Now, obviously, I'm talking to you in a more general way, and I can't give you individualized specific advice, but these are two really good booklets that you can look up yourself. These have been published in conjunction with my own professional body, the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy. So they're both called Get Up and Go, but they're slightly different. There's one called A Guide to Staying Steady, and it's a huge fold-out document, but you can get it online. Hannah can share these slides with you, when we've finished the talk, and, or I can send you the links to them. A Guide to Staying Steady. So I would really recommend that as a good overview of just simple, almost common sense, but practical strategies that you can deploy on a day-to-day basis to maintain your balance, to reducing the risk of falls and all the consequences of that. And then there's another booklet here, again, not specific to anyone as an individual, but general information about some simple exercises that you can do, including things like sitting to standing, heel raises, marching, simple things that you can do but are profoundly effective in helping you stay steady, maintain strength, balance, and reducing the risk of falls as well. So two booklets that you can have a little look at there. Okay, so just to highlight, I mean, I know I've already been hopefully quite positive about the benefits of exercise, but just to really highlight the importance of exercise in our lives, really. So increased flexibility. Our joints are more flexible, more mobile, whether we have a condition or not. any kind of exercise can increase both flexibility in our joints. It encourages natural lubricating fluids, that synovial fluid, to sweep through the joints and lubricate those joint surfaces and keep them nourished, hydrated, oxygenated, and allow and lubricated, and keep those joints flexible, and also keep our muscles flexible as well, to retain the length in our muscles so they don't shorten and become contracted, because that shortened tight muscles can also limit our flexibility. Okay, as we've talked about the importance of maintaining strength for so many different reasons. So increased flexibility with our muscles and our joints diminishes stiffness as well. And again, being stiff is a risk factor for falling. Better cardiovascular fitness, so our hearts work more effectively. And even if we've got underlying cardiovascular conditions, exercise is beneficial in both improving and maintaining cardiovascular function. Our circulation is better. Our muscles are better. We talk about perfused, bringing oxygen to our muscles. Improved balance, which helps us in so many different ways, particularly the risk of fall. Improved posture, so we stand more upright. Our posture is better. We can breathe more effectively. I know you've already done a session this morning on breath work, haven't you? And I'm sure our colleague who's took you through all of that talked about posture, and that has huge impacts on the oxygenation of our lungs. Improved posture is also really good for your mental health as well, isn't it? If you're standing upright, it's very much a different sense of who we are than if we're slumped and feeling tight, and all of this leads to improved function and physical ability as well. And there's so much evidence, not specifically to Alkaptonuria, but generally how physical activity improves our vitality, our zest for life, our physical role, and our mental health as well. Okay, we sleep better, don't we? It's normal to be active during the day. That leads us to sleep better. Being more active actually improves our energy levels, doesn't it? Because we're strengthening our muscles, our systems can work more effectively. We're designed to move, aren't we, really? We're not designed to be sedentary. As we've evolved, as our lives have become more automated, and we work more at laptops. We don't. Fewer of us do physical jobs anymore now. We've become more sedentary as human beings, but we are designed to move, aren't we? So it's important to recognize those periods where we do spend lots of periods of time sitting, and try and offset that with some kind of physical activity. Improves your mood. Huge evidence around, the benefits of exercise in terms of releasing endorphins and caffeines, which are our body's natural pain relieving substances. These are like the body's own opiates that we produce in our brains, really, that can really help to improve mood. And can really help with suppression of ascending pain messages as well. Can help with our weight, improve sense of well-being, that sense of achievement, that you've just gone up and done something, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, that improved body image, self-esteem, decreased social isolation, and improved personal independence. So absolutely, so many reasons to be physically active, all of those. Are there any downsides to exercising? You may disagree with me. I can't think of any at all, any disadvantages particularly. But I think it's important to recognise that there can be barriers to exercise. It's not. I'm not sort of selling this to you that this is really easy and we can all be super active all the time. And I think it's important to recognise that there can be barriers and challenge to exercise as well. And I think probably one of the biggest barriers that we all fear is it's going to either we're in too much pain to start with, or it's going to exacerbate levels of pain, or often we can be fearful of injury. as a result of doing exercise. We've got reduced energy levels. We're going to feel more tired and more fatigued. It's very hard to, and motivation can be an issue, particularly if you do have fatigue. It can be very, very difficult. Sometimes you think, well, I feel tired and exhausted already. Is exercise what I really want to be doing right now? Sometimes it's a lack of self-efficacy, isn't it? It's a lack of belief that you can do exercise, and lack of knowledge, isn't it? And a lack of confidence. And time is a huge issue. I know this in my own life, and I'm sure a lot of you live busy lives with competing priorities. It could be caring responsibilities, it could be your work, it could be, other responsibilities that you have in your life, looking after your home, all those kinds of things that take up huge chunks of our time, really. Social support, feeling that you can't access facilities. It could be cultural and language barriers as well, couldn't it? Exercise is not one size fits all, is it? Our cultural backgrounds, our values, our beliefs will shape the kind of physical activity that works for us as well. So it's recognizing, finding things that are suitable for us in our own lives, really, and reflect our values, beliefs, what sits well with our cultural values as well, and that we can access them. And it can be cost. Exercise doesn't need to cost money, but I guess exercising, if we want to go to gyms or facilities or classes, there's a cost involved often, isn't there? And it may be there may not be facilities, where you live to do the sort of exercise that you particularly want to do. But exercise can be offered in lots of different ways, can't it? We don't need to be restricted to that. It could be something as simple as the weather. And I've just put in quite a famous picture, and this is of rainy Manchester. I'm in Manchester at the moment. Thankfully, it's not raining, but this was actually taken by a friend of mine, and it's become viral now. It's not dark and grey in Manchester all the time, I can reassure you. But sometimes we look out of the window and think, oh, it's the rain is lashing down, and it doesn't really incentivize us to want to get out and get exercising. So I think it's important to recognize that it's not always straightforward and there are barriers to exercise. Okay, and just thinking a little bit more about pain as well, and the impacts of pain, that can be a restrictive factor. If we're in pain, we can be quite anxious about moving. That can affect our mood. That can impact our activity levels, and lead to this sort of somewhat, sadly, sort of downward spiral, really. You feel anxious, you feel low in mood, you become quite withdrawn, you don't necessarily want to continue with physical activity. And then the consequence of that is that you have reduced strength, mobility, and fitness, fatigue, and then that drives the pain even more. So it's just thinking about how we can maybe break that cycle. Now, this is very simplistic. I will grant you that, but it's maybe thinking, how can we escape or make some changes to those perceptions of pain, really. And I'm sure Dr. Jones will talk with you a bit more about this afternoon, but understanding chronic pain mechanisms, knowing a little bit about pain neurophysiology, and recognizing that not all pain is necessarily harmful. It's unpleasant, but it's not necessarily harmful to us, and it's about understanding the nature of chronic pain at a more sort of neural level, but recognizing where exercise, physical activity can fit into that. And we talk about graded exposure to activity. So it may not be that you can start at a level that you've either enjoyed previously or you would want to aspire to, but it's starting at all, and it's recognizing that we start low, go slow, and it's graded, gradual exposure. But that incrementally over time can lead to increased fitness, increased endurance, and increased confidence, and therefore decreased fear. And gradually you can start to increase normal levels of activity. And as a result of that, function can actually increase and your pain's not necessarily worsened. And actually through exercising and releasing those endorphins, those enkephalins, also other pain mechanisms, blocking the pain gate. Pain can be modulated by physical activity, and it's very, very powerful. Alongside other things that you might use, like medication, like activity modification, but physical activity can be very, very powerful as a modulator of pain. Okay, so thinking again, I can't give you specific exercise advice because that would have to be a bit more personalized, but things that you certainly could increase or consider including would be stretching, like I've said, to maintain that flexibility, strengthening. I've talked a lot about that. Breathing, you've already had a session around the importance of breathing to both improve oxygenation. It can have a huge impact on your mental health as well, so really important. And although I've said a lot about not being sedentary and not spending too long sitting down, you can actually do a really good workout in a chair and work out all your major muscles in chair-based exercise. So, if you're more comfortable seated, you can still do exercise from a chair. Walking in lots of different ways. That could be a more gentle walk. You could make it more strenuous with poles, Nordic walking up hills, some jogging, cycling, whether that be on a road bike in a park or on a static bike. Yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, brilliant for strength, balance, coordination, all kinds of exercise in water. Golf, brilliant walking, coordination. Even think using equipment like a Wii Fit could be great as well. And all sorts of, appropriate gym classes that you might want to go to. Again, not an exhaustive list, and I'm sure you've got loads of other ideas. We've not put dancing on there either, have we? I think dancing is great. So a huge variety of physical activity that you can do. Okay, I'm quite passionate about water. I'm not saying we should all do synchronized swimming, but it does give you freedom of movement, certainly. Okay. I mean, I'm loath to say avoid any kind of exercise because exercise has got to be pleasurable. But I think it's thinking about your level of mobility and, the risks. I wouldn't say, if you want to play football, if that is what you want to do, and there's things like walking football and, you can play it different, go ahead and do it, I would say. I think it's just being aware sometimes of the risks of, if you've got increased bone fragility or, joint damage, contact sports may not be the best. But, again, discuss with your physiotherapist and they will help to guide you with it. Things like high impact running, really high load resistive exercise. I think a lot of these programs like High Rocks are really gaining traction and popularity now. That might not be the best for you, but it's important. So I think it's avoiding things where you have excessive loading, because if you've already got those compromised joints, particularly with that cartilage degradation and ochronosis, it may not be ideal. But what I would say is have that discussion with your physiotherapist, and we're always happy to talk you through and to advise and support you with your decisions around exercise, definitely. Okay, so getting started, really important, as I've said, discuss your plans with your physiotherapist, decide what you want to achieve. We talk very much about SMART goals, so making it specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. If you've got a goal to work towards, and this is harnessing things that you've probably done throughout your life. I met a number of you previously, and I know, you've often had very high level professional careers or achieved a lot in your life in lots of different ways. So setting a goal around physical activity is harnessing skills and knowledge that you've already got. We always say start low, go slow, be realistic. You're not going to get results overnight. It does take perseverance and time and consistency and commitment to see changes, but you will see those changes. Always important to warm up and stretch before you start. Always important to cool down and stretch as well at the end to avoid injury and avoid unnecessary delayed muscle onset. So we do talk about this. We talk about delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS, after exercise. So, that can be normal, particularly if you haven't exercised for a while, that is not unusual. But as your body accommodates and adapts, and that will not be so much of a problem. If you feel you have done too much, you can reduce the intensity and build up again gradually. So, as I said right at the beginning, it's got to be fun. It's got to be enjoyable, because you'll look forward to it, you'll stick to it, and it'll become part of your day-to-day life. If you like working with somebody else, have an exercise buddy to work with. But just a small amount of exercise on a regular basis makes a huge, huge difference. And what we're talking about now, more exercise snacks. So they're not the treats that we have because we reward ourselves after we've done exercise. It's talking about exercise in little bite-sized chunks, really. So it doesn't have to be doing something, that's prolonged or takes a long time to do. It's about little small snippets of activity, small moves that we do, regularly throughout the day. But these can help with building strength, balance, heart health, like the little diagram there shows us, really. So it's maybe setting little reminders on our phone. Sometimes we don't realize how long we've been sitting down for, or been immobile for, is it? Just trying to think about how we can incorporate physical activity into our lives, really, in small ways. It might be just, rather than driving, if it's a short distance, we might be able to walk to something, or use a bike, or how can we weave in little bits of physical activity into our daily lives, really, without it becoming too onerous and feeling like it's an overwhelming requirement that we have to fulfill. Okay, I've just put some very general resources in there. So the NHS fitness studios, you may have come across those. General advice, but they're on the NHS website, and there's some classes around strengthening, around fitness, that you can tackle by yourself. I would always say maybe just have a little look at them first, and maybe just, even if you don't embark on a full class, because some of them are quite long, they're 45 minutes, it might be that you just start off and just do a small part of the class. But they are free resources you can do. So exercise programs that you can do from the comfort of your own home, without, obviously you need to have access to the internet to do those, which you obviously all have. Then this is from Nuffield Health, so a private healthcare organisation, but they have the Nuffield joint pain programs. And I know in Liverpool, there's a Nuffield facility that we can direct patients to. And again, it's not specific to AKU, but it's about helping people with long-term joint pain problems and chronic pain manage that, and building it. And I've never used it myself, but certainly I've heard great reports from people who have used it. This is a booklet from Arthritis UK, just a generic booklet about keeping moving, but it's got some really nice, straightforward physical activity in there that you can try quite safely by yourself, really. And then a resource called the Pain Toolkit, which has been produced by a gentleman called Pete Moore, who himself is living with persistent pain, but has created this whole package of really excellent resources that you can use to help manage pain as well. Okay, so just to summarize, and I'm really sorry because I realize that I think I've talked too long. What we offer in physiotherapy: comprehensive clinical assessment. We use lots of regular reassessment, bespoke exercise programs. And then, we can always offer advice during a flare-up or deterioration, or if you have a physiotherapist who wants to discuss with us. I am not setting myself up as an expert. All I would say is we've had the privilege and pleasure of working with many people with Alkaptonuria through the National Centre, and perhaps have more have had more exposure to working with yourselves than perhaps other colleagues elsewhere have had, really. So, we've been very, very fortunate to have that opportunity afforded to us professionally, and we want to thank you for that. So that is all I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry, I think I've slightly, don't know if I've overrun there a little bit. Very happy to have a little chat. I know I don't want to keep any of you from your lunch because I know you've got another schedule this afternoon, haven't you? You've got a full program this afternoon. But if you want to turn on your microphones, ask any questions or have a little discussion, very happy to do that. So thank you so much.
We have had one question in the chat, which is, what's the best physiotherapy advice you'd give a teenager with AKU? Also, are there any common issues you see in young people with AKU?
I think for a teenager with AKU, I would say, I think keeping active, keeping mobile, finding things that you enjoy doing, really, really important. I think it's maybe about sharing that as well with if the child is still at school, doing PE. I think sharing the nature of the condition with PE teachers, but get involved with things. I think really, I wouldn't avoid activity. I mean, particularly as a young person, they may be able to start on medication earlier to prevent accumulation of homogentisic acid. I think Professor Ranganath would be able to give you more advice about prescribing. That's not my scope at all.
Hiya, Sophie. That was my question.
Oh, hi. Hiya.
Yeah, so it's my son. He's 15.
Yeah.
He's really active, very sporty.
Fantastic.
And like most 15-year-olds now, he's very much into going to the gym. And it's all about lifting weights, and all of that sort of stuff. So it's kind of where you touched on it with the heavy loading of weight at a young age, particularly somebody with AKU.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think that's great. It's brilliant, and that he wants to be active, and it's really important that he does things with his peers and it's normalized, and, so absolutely continue with the gym, and, if he's enjoying that. I wouldn't say don't do weightlifting. I think it's really important that it does that resistive work, but I think just think about how much is loading his joints. And I would say this to any young person, because those growth plates are still developing, and heavy lifting for young people is not necessarily the best for those developing growth plates, really. So I would say, to continue to weight, but moderate weightlifting, really, not really heavy, excessive weightlifting. I know, people can be a bit competitive about it, and
that's what it is. I think there's a group of competitive boys, and he's one of the bigger boys as well. So he kind of wants to. I'm like, no, don't do it.
I think continue with it and do it, but I think just in moderation, he will still get all the benefits from it. He'll still get the muscle bulking. It just doesn't have to do ridiculously heavy loading, I would say, really. You can still get all the benefits, both physically, mentally, aesthetically, it can get all of that, but just, be slightly restrained, I would say. It doesn't have to be breaking any world records or anything like that. Has he been to the NAC? Has he been for an assessment?
No, he's only 15, so realistically he won't come to go up to Liverpool
for a little while.
18.
Yeah. Does he have a
Oh, sorry, carry on.
No, please.
My other question is, obviously you do see younger people up at Liverpool. Are there any kind of common issues that you see with young people in AKU, or not specifically? I guess they're probably coming
less
to you
so,
generally symptom-free.
I think they're generally, and I think particularly with the advent of medication as well. Does your son take medication?
Not yet, no.
No. I think we will see lower levels of musculoskeletal impact, really. So often when we assess younger people with the condition, they're pretty asymptomatic, and they've got full range of movement, the strength, the scores, are are generally quite okay, really. You know, we don't see, and I suppose, you know, it's ensuring that we maintain that really, and monitor. You know, as I say, range of movement is a quite a good indicator of deterioration. So, it's ensuring that joint range and strength is maintained, and whether he will be eligible for medication as he goes up, as he gets older. That would be something to discuss with the medical team, wouldn't it, at Liverpool? But I think typically when we see our younger cohorts, generally, you know, they don't have significant musculoskeletal restriction, really. I think it's perhaps our more mature population who perhaps the condition has been identified. There's been not delay, but you know, it's been identified later and not recognised sooner, that they've already started to maybe develop some clinical features, really.
I think we're in a very different era now, aren't
Yeah,
we? With young people that would be coming through, it would be a whole different approach to treatment.
Hopefully, yeah, definitely, yeah. I think, I mean, obviously, we work with AKU, but I work more broadly in rheumatology, and medical management has changed the management of most of our rheumatological diseases now. You know, that they can be I know it's a different disease process in AKU, but that disease process can be really suppressed and dampened down and put into remission, really. So, you know, many years ago, you know, we'd perhaps be quite gentle with our patients, wrap them in cotton wool, but the evidence now is that, you know, we need to be keeping stronger and physically active, and ensure that people, you know, absolutely live their life to the fullest. They're not held back by it, you know. So that's what we really aspire to.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Anybody else want to raise a point or have a little chat at all?
What I would say if there are any questions that you think of after the fact, like Sophie said, if you get them over to me or me and Georgia, we can make sure that Sophie gets them, and you know, we can feedback. And I will also share the slides with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well,
thanks so much, Sophie. We really, really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you. And well, welcome any feedback, whether that's been helpful. Don't mean now, you know, take some time to think about it. But if there's anything, you know, if you ever run a day like this in the future, you know, if there's something additionally, I mean, I've just kept it quite general, but you know, anything a bit more specific that you want me to look into, I certainly will do. But thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a real privilege to speak with you today. Enjoy. I'll let you go to your lunch now, because I'm sure you're all well ready, and you've got a big busy schedule this afternoon as well, haven't you? So unfortunately I've got some commitments here, so I can't jump on. If anything changes, I'll join you, but thank you so much for having me. All right.
Thanks, Sophie.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.